All right, welcome back and thank you so much for staying with the team as we continue to tell your story. Now, Old Mutual has come under fire after a fed-up family was forced to resort to drastic measures after it allegedly failed to pay a funeral claim. On Tuesday night, a video went viral on social media showing family members carrying the body of a dead family member in a body bag from Old Mutual's offices in KwaZulu-Natal, where it was dropped following the company's alleged refusal to pay out a death benefit. The video sparked an outrage on social media, with users slamming the embattled company over its insensitivity towards the bereaved family. Now, Old Mutual has since apologized to the family and also clarified this matter, saying that it had in fact paid the claim by the time the family arrived at its offices with the remains of their relatives. So many South Africans had taken to social media to express their disgust at Old Mutual and also have vowed to cancel their policies with the company. The affected family as well, that's the Mjali family, also indicated their intention to cancel theirs too. But the question here is, how has this saga affected the brand that Old Mutual is, and will the company really recover from this reputational damage? We talked to Brightness Mangolothi. She's a communications specialist and a public relations specialist as well. She joins us now live from our studios in Port Elizabeth. Brightness, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Good afternoon, Palisa. Thank you very much.
Now, firstly, there was that mixed reaction really on what the family did, but a whole lot of South Africans were saying that desperate times do call for desperate measures.
I think maybe firstly what I need to say, condolences to the family. And indeed, desperate times call for desperate measures. It is quite a sad encounter that a family has to end up resorting, carrying the corpse. I mean, in our black culture, we dearly respect the corpse. So if a person have to resort in taking the corpse, it means they felt that there was no other options. But we all know when we talk about insurances, I mean, in most cases, when they sell the policies to us, they have this emotional appeal that actually says, we are the solution for you. We can provide the funds. You don't have to worry about funding. But in this case, when they said to this family, we are still assessing, it was actually screaming that it's a 50-50 chance where they are going to pay or they might not pay. So the ultimate resolution for the family was that if they need to assess this, let's give them the evidence to actually say, here is the person who has passed on. So what more evidence do you need to prove that the person has passed on? Yeah. So it is really a sad encounter. And for me, it actually reflects the level of poverty, the level of unemployment, the desperateness that we are finding ourselves in South Africa.
And you talk about challenges that we have to go through as consumers when we want to claim for the benefits that we've been paying for all along. Coincidentally, Brightness, last year this time, you and I were having a similar discussion focusing on momentum. So here we are again this year talking about the same issue. And the question really with Old Mutual is, what does this mean to the brand that Old Mutual is? Remember that this is the very same company that is still embroiled in court battles with its CEO, Peter Moyo. Will this not create more reputational damage for the company?
This is definitely having a negative reputation on the company. I mean, if you track the trends on social media, you would see that a number of stakeholders that are actually commenting on their social media platform. Some are actually saying, which is potential clients who are saying, you know what, from all these comments, from all that has happened, I think I don't want to be a client of organization. There are those who are holders of who are actually saying, I'm pulling out. When I was on the Facebook page, one of the actually posted to say,
all right. No, apologies. We losing that line from our studios in Port Elizabeth. In conversation there with a public relations and communications specialist, Brightness Mangolothi, really looking at brand damage and reputational damage that Old Mutual may suffer. Of course, because of what happened earlier this week. Let's just see if that line is up and running. So you were still explaining before you cut off. On the other hand, we heard that Old Mutual did say that, in fact, the money was already in the bank account of the families when they arrived in their offices. And the question is it really convincing enough? Is this damage control or crisis management sufficient to sort of make up for the reputation that has already been compromised?
I think, personally, I think the letter, the apology that they've issued, it was a well-written letter. But profoundly what is important is the comments that are made on the social media platform. Either or that they have paid the 30,000 to the client, but if you track the social media platform, you can actually see there have been people whose claim have been rejected for quite a while. And some of them, they're still saying they're busy assessing and nothing is being done by Old Mutual. So it's not just an isolated case. It has actually encouraged people to speak up, to come out and say, here I am. I also have the same predicament as this particular family. And some went to the extent to say, it's unfortunate for some of us, we don't have the guts to take the corpse and to show it to Old Mutual, but we are in the same predicament. So there's a lot of brand damage that has happened for Old Mutual. And as you were saying earlier, with the case of the CEO also, if you look also at the rand value of Old Mutual at this particular point, it has actually went the negative side, which is not good for the shareholders too.
All right, so as you said, you have many South Africans who vowed to cancel their policies with Old Mutual because of this particular case. So how should Old Mutual maneuver through this one? If you were their public relations expert, what would your point of departure be in this whole mess? You're not, luckily.
In fact, quite funny, I was thinking Old Mutual, what a unique name. Which mutual, it's about relationships. And a part of me was actually saying probably they're doing it the old way. The new way is to actually build the relationship with the stakeholders or with the client per se. There need to be an aggressive communication moving forward from the side of Old Mutual. They need to firstly be engaging with the family that have lost, with the family per se, which is important that they actually provide as much support as possible. Secondly, they need to actually communicate the value proposition to the customer to show their commitment that, yes, we are committed. And it also requires them to be transparent, to actually show that this is what we are doing to ensure that the same predicament does not take place again. It needs to be a holistical stakeholder engagement. I think a lot is at stake. You have your shareholders at stake. You have the media that is writing about Old Mutual, which is negative publicity also. You have the local communities that are actually observing what is happening. And it's not only affecting them as an organization, even the organization that they've partnered with. I think there were some cases where people were dragging cases like the Idols, because the Idols was one of the beneficiaries, or they sponsored the Idols. And some of the people were saying, how can you sponsor and not afford to pay your client? So that on its own has a predicament on a number of stakeholders of organization. So an aggressive stakeholder engagement or aggressive stakeholder communication is required from the side of Old Mutual.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing there, Brightness, because some of us in this communication sector would tell you that negative publicity is publicity at the end of the day. But just in conclusion, I think this particular case, once again, like it was with the Momentum case, it raises the effects of social media and the power of social media in creating awareness and perhaps giving back the power to the people, because social media is the one who took this case and until it was resolved.
I believe social media is actually giving power back to the people. Social media is actually bringing back the voice of those that have been muted for quite a while. And in the past, the companies could manipulate people. But now the people have the power to actually put the information in public so that people can actually comment. So, which actually shows that it's also critical for organizations to engage with the social media, to monitor what people are saying on social media. Thus far, I've checked their page. The only statement that have been made was that apology. Overall, there's no comment, there's no response, there's nothing that is happening on social media in relation to response from Old Mutual, which is actually a sad predicament.
All right, we'll leave it at this for today. Thank you so much for coming through. We always appreciate your insights here on the SABC News channel. Brightness Mangolothi is a communications specialist and public relations expert, talking to us about the Old Mutual saga. And I suppose the big question still remains, will Old Mutual recover from this one?